Afternoon. I'm Helen Giddings, chair of the Women's Leadership Summit. And on behalf of our entire committee, I would like to welcome you. Let me recognize the members of the committee. They are Kim Askew, Sharon Black, Campbell, Hattie Hill, Faith Johnson, Camelia Kennedy, Delva King, Donna Newsom, Stephanie Nellens Page, Angela Ross, Cynthia Mickens Ross, Demetrius Sampson, Monica Williams, Carolyn Wright Sanders, and our coordinator, Tamara Sadler. Our topic today is who's leading Texas newsrooms and why that matters to you. You will hear from two amazing women who have shattered the glass ceiling. But before we hear from them, we want to pay tribute to two women from Dallas and two women from Houston who are media pioneers. The Honorable Carolyn Wright Sanders will lead the tribute. The Honorable Carolyn Wright Sanders has shattered a few glass ceilings herself. She served in the judiciary here in Texas for over 30 years. You have her bio. I will not read it. I do want to just mention that she was a state district judge for 8 years and the retired Chief Justice of the Fifth Court of Appeals here in Dallas, the only African-American to have served as Chief Justice on any of the 14 intermediate courts. Please welcome the Honorable Carolyn Wright Sanders, retired Chief Justice.
Thank you so much, Chair Giddings, and our esteemed panelists. It is a great honor for me to have been given this privilege to introduce and celebrate 4 outstanding African-American women who have been trailblazers in the broadcast and multimedia. I would like to first present Karen Carter Richards from Houston, the place of my birth. And that is, Mrs. Richards has served as CEO and publisher for the Forward Times Publishing Company, Incorporated, a multimedia company that publishes weekly. It is the largest owned and independently published newspaper in the southern region. Karen is the daughter of the late Julius P. Carter and Lenora Carter, original founder publishers of the historic publication, which has served the community since 1960. Karen has continued the iconic legacy of her parents, and after more than 30 years of working in the family business in various administrative and managerial positions, she has taken over the helm and transitioned the business into one of the leading multimedia companies in the country. As a second-generation publisher, Karen has creatively expanded the mission of the Forward Times and has continued her family's publishing legacy. Following the untimely death of her mother in 2010, Karen launched the Julius and Lenora Carter Scholarship and Youth Foundation, which supports students by granting scholarships and internships to those who aspire to a career in journalism and communications. The foundation has effectively partnered with local school districts and colleges, universities to offer internship opportunities to students, which allow them to be exposed to various career options in the journalism and communications industry. Because of her commitment and dedicated service, Karen has received numerous awards for her outstanding contributions, including the Texas Executive Women on the Move, Class of 2016, Tri-County Black Chamber of Commerce Living Legend Icon Award, Top 25 Women of Houston International Financial Leadership Summit Award, National Council of Negro Women's Mary McLeod Bethune Impact Service Award, and many more. She serves on the board of directors for Greater Southeast Management District and the Houston Texans YMCA. Karen currently serves as chair of the board and past vice chair for the National Newspaper Publishers Association, the NNPA. She was also selected as NNPA Publisher for the year in 2018. Karen is an inaugural member of the International Women's Forum Houston chapter, chairperson of Go Red Girlfriend, an African American awareness initiative for the American Heart Association, previously served on Mayor Sylvester Turner's transition team as a member of the Economic Opportunity Committee. Ms. Karen Richards, please, if you will unmute your screen. I present to you the award of the Women's Leadership Summit with deep gratitude and appreciation for your work. Please briefly speak to us.
Thank you so much. I'm so honored to be with you guys today. Bring you greetings from Houston, Texas, also from the National Newspaper Publishers Association, celebrating 194 years of the Black press, 81 years of NNPA. So I bring you greetings from all of the women publishers. And can I add, all the executive committee is all women, and just so happy to be here. And I thank you for this honor and this recognition.
Thank you so much. Next is Ms. Molly Finch Belt, publisher and CEO of the Dallas Examiner. She's a proud mother and grandmother, the only daughter of Fred and Mildred Finch. She's published the Dallas Examiner for 35 years and 52 weeks a year. Both her late husband and father were attorneys in Dallas. The newspaper was founded by her legendary father in 1986. His mission was to have a quality newspaper in Dallas about African Americans that celebrated their successes and addressed myriad issues affecting the lives and businesses of African Americans. The first edition of the newspaper was published in March 1986. 2 weeks later, her father and mother were tragically murdered in their home. Although Mrs. Belt was a University of Denver College graduate and seasoned executive and administrative officer in local and federal governmental agencies, where she rose to the position of branch chief, she has no formal journalism training at that time. Through sheer hard work and commitment to keeping her father's dream alive, she has successfully done just that, and including creating her own website. She has faithfully served in a number of leadership positions in Journalism Association. First vice chair and secretary of the National Publishers Association, secretary and vice president of the Texas Publishers Association. The Dallas Examiner and its publisher, Mrs. Molly Belt, have also received numerous local, state, and national awards, notably the National Newspaper Publisher Association Publisher of the Year Award and Lifetime Achievement Award, the Dallas Press Club Distinguished Journalist Award. History Makers, the history of the paper is recorded in the Library of Congress. The Dallas Examiner has made numerous contributions to the community, published college guides for high school students, voter education guides, health supplements, and Black History editions every February. She founded an internship program for high school journalism students that provides on-site training at the newspaper and publication of a weekly newspaper, Future Speak, a separate edition for the youth inserted into the Dallas Examiner. They've also hosted Monday Night Politics, Meet the Candidates, a political forum for candidates for elected office for over 14 years. Mrs. Molly Belt, please unmute yourself.
Hello, and thank you, Chief Justice Wright. I didn't do my camera. I'm very, very honored to receive this recognition. it means a lot when you've worked hard, when you've achieved things, and when people recognize you for what you have done. We have worked, my staff and I, at the paper to serve the Dallas community as best we could with the resources that we had, and we will continue to do so. There's still a lot of work that needs to be done, but I do applaud the Women's Leadership Summit for the work that you do and for recognizing me for the work that I've accomplished. Thank you.
Thank you. This award will be delivered to you at the paper. We appreciate you so much. Next, Cheryl Smith. Cheryl Smith is the proud mother to her nephew and 3 nieces who have blessed her to be a very proud grandmother. She is also the publisher editor of iMessenger Media, the umbrella organization for Texas Metro News, Garland Journal, and iMessenger. Cheryl has an extensive career across media platforms. Cheryl began iMessenger in 2011 with a digital publication, and the next year expanded to include Texas Metro News and Garland Journal, all of which have garnered awards. She is also a well-known journalism professor, teaching journalism and communications at Paul Quinn College, University of North Texas, Texas Women's University, and Dallas College. She directed the DFW ABJ Urban Journalism Workshop for almost 2 decades, exposing hundreds of aspiring high school students to the multidimensional and rapidly evolving world of journalism. Cheryl has always been passionate about journalism since her work on yearbook and newspaper staffs during high school in New Jersey through her college years at Florida A&M. And following her internships in the Florida Press Corps, broadcast media, and at the Capital Outlook, Black Press, she has had a much celebrated career, including 22 years as an award-winning talk show host, executive producer on KKDA, Soul 73, and helping other publications to thrive. Cheryl's Don't Believe the Hype Celebrity Bowl-a-thon has raised hundreds of thousands of dollars in scholarships and grants for area youth and provided health screenings and seminars on healthy living. In early 2020, Cheryl entered into a collaboration with the Dallas Morning News to share content to better serve diverse communities. And she has also collaborated with the Dallas Media Collaborative and numerous local college and minority newspapers. Professor, publisher Cheryl Smith is an award-winning multimedia journalist and has served in numerous leadership positions. She's received several NABJ and NNPA awards and numerous other awards, including the Press Club of Dallas, International Free Papers of America, and the prestigious Messenger Awards. The National Society of Newspaper Editors presented Cheryl with the Barry Bingham Award for work in the area of journalism education. Her leadership positions include Secretary of the National Association of Black Journalists, board member and regional president of the National Newspaper Publishers Association, NNPA, the Black Press of America, immediate past president of the Dallas-Fort Worth Association of Black Journalists. Ms. Cheryl Smith, we salute you. Please turn off your mute and speak to us briefly.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you. This is Black History. I am so excited to be here, and thanks to Women's Leadership Summit and the Honorable Helen Giddings. I am committed to journalistic excellence, information sharing, and loving and living in the minute. And it is an honor to accept this recognition and also to be able to hear from the dynamic folks who we will be hearing from in the very near future, because they are Black history, they are our future, and we need to support them. I'm celebrating today by spreading love and working to be worthy of such recognition. And while I embrace history, living in the moment makes me say to all of you, I love you, I appreciate you, I applaud the work that you all do. And let's be about the business of continuing to support one another. God bless you all.
Thank you so much, Cheryl. We appreciate your work greatly. Next is Ms. Sunny Giles. She has not yet joined us.
Yes, I'm here.
She has joined us. Oh, wonderful. Thank
Okay.
you so much. Sunny Messiah Giles, wife, mother, and CEO publisher of the Defender Media Group, which includes the Defender newspaper, website, and social media platforms. She's been at the helm of the company since 1981, when she purchased the newspaper at age 27. Ms. Messiah Giles is a graduate of the University of Houston. Prior to purchasing the Defender, she worked as a radio news reporter, a television talk show host, and advertising account executive at the Houston Chronicle and Magic 102 KMJQ. Sunny is the recipient of numerous awards and has served on numerous charitable, media, and professional boards and held numerous leadership positions. Most notably, Sunny Messiah Giles has been named by Ebony Magazine as one of the 100 most influential Black Americans. She and her husband were awarded the Community Service Award by the University of Houston Downtown in December 2008. Messiah Giles was inducted into the Houston Women's Chamber of Commerce inaugural Hall of Fame, along with the former First Lady Barbara Bush and other notable civic leaders. Amongst many others, she is also the recipient of the Houston Association of Black Journalists Trailblazer Award, Phenomenal Woman Award, the National Dental Association Civil Rights Award, and the American Civil Liberties Freedom of Speech Award. She has also served as chair of the National Newspaper Publishers Association, again, the Black Press of America and the Local Media Association Board, National Alumni Chair for the University of Houston Alumni Organization, Vice President and Director of Grand Slam, a marketing investment consulting firm and advisory board of KIPP Houston, first African-American female board member of the Greater Houston Partnership. She's also on the MD Anderson Board of Visitors and the advisory board of JP Morgan Chase Houston, the American Diabetes Association, and the American Leadership Forum. We thank you so much, Ms. Messiah Giles, and we salute you today, and we are so grateful for your service. We present to you this award, and it will be delivered to you in Houston. Please have a few words.
Thank you, Judge. I appreciate the honor, and I'd like to thank the Women's Leadership Summit for this recognition. The fact of the matter is, today in the newsrooms of America, women are taking leadership positions, and we're determining the who, what, when, where, and how of how the news is presented and digested. And with that, I think women are taking news, they're to the point, we're concerned, we're caring, we're compassionate, we're factual, and we're empowering. And because of that fact, I think women are making a difference in the world of media. One of the things, as a member of the Black Press of America, and you've got a number of my colleagues, Cheryl and Karen, and I think a few others along the way that are probably just participating as part of your audience, we are all working hard for the community to make sure that they get the news from our perspective. And as a result, the Houston Defender Network, one of the leading Black information sources in the state of Texas, who, by the way, happens to be celebrating, Cheryl, 90 years of existence. And so we're proud of that fact. And we'd like to invite all of your audience to go to defendernetwork.com and sign up for our newsletters and or contribute to supporting and maintaining and sustaining the legacy of the Houston Defender for many more decades to come. Thank you again to the Women's Leadership Summit for this honor, and we appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Chair Giddings. We salute these outstanding women. Thank you for the opportunity to do so.
Thank you very much, Chief Justice Wright. And congratulations to Cheryl and Molly and Sunny and Karen. We are delighted that you were able to join us, and we're so pleased to be able to recognize your work. Now, I'm going to ask our audience to feel free to make comments and put questions in the chat as we get ready for our panel. I'm going to ask Leona Allen Ford to come on screen with me. I am pleased to present our moderator, the deputy publisher of the Dallas Morning News. She has served in a number of capacities at the Dallas Morning News, including the editorial board and deputy managing editor for local news. I'm not going to read her entire bio, you have it, but I do want to mention that she was awarded the Pulitzer Prize along with a reporting team at the Akron Beacon for their series on race in Akron. We are delighted to have you as our moderator. Welcome, Leona.
Thank you, Helen. I am just so honored to be here today to Molly, Cheryl, Sunny, and Karen. We all owe you a huge debt. You and the Black press for leading the way and telling the stories in our communities when no one else was. So congratulations to you. And welcome everyone, and happy Friday. I've been looking forward to talking to these remarkable journalists at the same time in the same room for a long time. I wish we were doing it in person, but I'm just happy that they're both joining us today. And audience, you're in for a treat because you get to hear from two news leaders who have been at the top of their games for decades now. You can read their bios yourselves, but trust me, Katrice Hardy, executive editor at the Dallas Morning News, and Maria Reeve, executive editor at the Houston Chronicle, are two of the best in the business. Katrice and Maria, if you could join me on camera, please. Afternoon, ladies.
Hello.
You guys hear us okay? So let's get this conversation underway. As Helen said, if you guys have questions, we'll try to leave time at the end here to answer any questions, but this 40 minutes is gonna go really, really fast. So let's get underway. This is what I have described to folks as a double whammy time. I mean, it's an unprecedented time in the media business and in this country. And as a Dallas, Texas native, I think this is arguably the best state in the country for news. So, I mean, Katrice, you're on what, week number 9 here. Maria, you've been here 2 years and newly promoted to the top newsroom job in Houston. Both of you have had stops across the country. Just to each of you, why Texas and what attracted you to these newsrooms? Let's start with you, Katrice.
Perfect. Thank you all for having us here and for hosting this wonderful session. You know, for me, it was just a wonderful opportunity to come to a news organization that I had long admired from my college years. And, you know, wanted to just come here and help tell better stories for this very rich, thriving, but also in some cases, depending on your perspective, struggling community. It's also a state, as you've laid out, Leona, with unprecedented news issues. And so why not come and join and be a part of that?
Awesome. And Maria, you came to us to Texas from Minneapolis. Why Texas, and why that newsroom?
Thank you all for having me. I'm really honored to be here and to have been asked to participate. You know, Texas is Texas. It's the epicenter of so many issues that are important to this country. And quite honestly, I was looking for an opportunity to advance in my career. I had a great experience where I was, but when there are people who are there in positions that you might like to move into, but won't, so you have to seek those opportunities elsewhere. And this was the reason. And I'm a Southerner by birth, so I was really happy to have an opportunity to come back south.
I'm so glad you're both here. You'd have to be living under a rock not to have noticed that the opportunities, as Sunny mentioned, the top jobs that journalists of colors have earned, I say, over the last couple of years. Not just you two, but Manny Garcia at the Statesman, Sewell Chan at the Texas Tribune. I read her story recently where the top 20 newsrooms in the country now are headed by women of color. I mean, what are your thoughts about what's happening at these organizations across the country? And Maria, we'll start with you this time.
Sure. I think it's a recognition of what's always been there. People have been Black women have been in newsrooms for decades. And at this moment in our history, it's a recognition of our work, our talent, our experience coming to fruition and being promoted to some of these jobs. And it's not like it didn't exist before. But at this moment, there is that recognition.
Absolutely. Katrice, jump in, and Maria, you guys jump in whenever a moment strikes you. But Katrice, what do you think about this phenomenon? It's been happening really in the last 18 months. It's been at a quick pace.
Absolutely. The last 3 positions I've had, actually 4, have been you're the first, right? Black and or Black woman in most cases, or woman period in most cases. And so what I'll say is, we're honored, we're blessed, we've worked our butts off, but we get these positions, frankly, when resources are at an all-time low, when the industry is struggling, when our work couldn't be more relevant and important. And so, we've earned these positions, but we're also, getting these positions at a time when they're much more demanding and stressful jobs. And so I think we have, a lot of responsibility, to serve our communities, but also to serve our staff. And so, in many ways, I would not begrudge these wonderful honors and opportunities, but I'm also like, some predecessors had it much easier than we do.
We talk about that all the time, Katrice. Like, we are in some hot seat jobs, and I don't know a position that has been earned over the last 18 months, which wasn't a hot seat job. I mean, you talk about the first. Can you guys both of you talk a little bit about just those people who think, hey, you're only getting these jobs because you are women, because you are Black women, because we're in this unprecedented social justice time, and who, as if you didn't deserve these jobs. Talk a little bit about that.
My answer to that is these companies don't hand over the keys to their multi-million-dollar businesses to anyone.
Absolutely.
I mean, they are not in, I think, the business of being socially correct. I think they sought out talent that hadn't been afforded these opportunities before, because we are in this era of social justice, and hired not just because of our backgrounds and experience, but because of our talent. So I reject anyone who says, wow, it's just because they want leaders who can help. They do want leaders who can help. These newsrooms cover these issues in ways that maybe had not been considered before. Mm-hmm. But they don't hand the keys over to just anyone.
Yeah, and I would say, anybody who's worked with me probably 15, 20 minutes even will understand that, high expectations are what I expect and I bring to the table. And so, Maria, I know shares this, Cheryl, so many of the folks who've gotten honors today. I mean, we're here to serve our community and to do our best. And we work incredibly long hours. And so we expect impact through our work. And so, you look back, I mean, you talk about somebody's, background, but you look back at what we've done, even just as reporters, I think speaks to the fact that we didn't just get a job because we checked the box. I don't know about some of you, but I felt like I've had to jump through a lot of hurdles, even despite my resume, to get some of these positions.
That's absolutely right. And, I'll say I'm now have the recruiting team under my responsibility and worked really hard to get Katrice here. And I have to acknowledge and admit that, there was a little uneasiness about, hey, are we doing it just because she's the first? Are we doing it just because we want to be able to say we have, the first Black woman editor? And it all came down to really, let's put talent first. We've been, as our company, trying to focus on, we are not going to succeed unless we get the best and the brightest. And Katrice is the best and the brightest. And so I think that for the naysayers I hear, or the people who want to interject that into the conversation, we went for the top job. We went for the top talent that we can get. And I know that's the case in Houston as well. So glad to hear you guys talk about that. I mean, could each of you talk a little bit about your unique perspectives and what you bring to the table? Katrice, we've talked a little bit about your vision, of course, but what specifically are you bringing to these newsrooms? Why does it matter who is leading the newsroom?
I think, one of the great, advantages of diversity is just our perspectives. So many of us, I'm from the South as well. I'm from, you might want to say up the street, but Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And so, I have a love for football. Don't kill me, but it's the Saints, it's not Cowboys. I am a mother. I happen to be a woman. I happen to have lived in, a community where, my parents worked really hard to send me to a better school. But frankly, I felt like I isolated at that school because there weren't many people who looked like me. And then when I went home, people who did look like me said I sounded like a white girl. And so, all of those things, I think, allow us to bring perspectives to what we cover, to what matters. We see development as a good thing, but I also see development as a bad thing for people of color, right? In some cases. And so I think that helps us add more nuance to our coverage, which is much more important than, this side or that side. Most of us are experiencing things in the middle. And so we provide that, and our expectations are to provide that in our coverage and for our audience and our stories to be reflective of that.
We're going to talk about your newsroom and just really what you're trying to do there and the vision you bring to the table.
Yes, and everyone knows Houston is one of the most diverse cities in the country. I think sometimes our coverage reflects that, sometimes it doesn't. So I want to be more intentional about how we cover these communities, what we've done in the past, what do we need to do going forward? Because as Katrice knows, and we're all trying to grow audience. If that audience here is a more diverse audience, what are we doing to serve them? And how do we bring them into our business to see what we're doing to cover the communities and issues that are important? And same with, bringing perspective to these jobs. Like Katrice, I'm a mom. I have 3 kids. I grew up in Charleston, South Carolina. And so, I'm really happy to be back in the South. But I also enjoyed my time and gained some perspective from working in Minnesota for all these years, which is decidedly not like Houston.
Yeah.
I can say for this group, it's like just so nice to see Black people in all levels of business and commerce and education and all of that here in Texas, which I enjoy quite a bit.
Wanted to talk a little bit too. I am in charge of diversity, equity, inclusion here at our company, as I know you guys have been heavily involved in that area. So despite this recent success, progress it has not been great across the country in newsrooms. We're seeing some diversity at the highest levels, but we've got a long way to go to diversify our staffs. And we've been working on this for quite some time. And what are you specifically doing in your shops to bring that different perspective? I think, Marie, you said it best. The headroom to grow is really in audiences we don't have. And for many of us, it's in diverse communities, and we've got a ways to go to get there. Talk a little bit about what you're doing in your shops and how you keep this momentum going of, yes, the top levels, and now we need to permeate that diversity throughout the staffs.
I think for us in our newsroom, when we have openings, you know, the finalists can't be devoid of people of color. So that's a requirement that the pool has to be diverse. We have to seek out using our networks and other networks, you know, the most qualified folks we have, and that needs to include women and people of color. You cannot present a slate of finalists without that being the case. That said, it is, especially for some of the types of jobs that we're recruiting for, audience folks, product folks, coders, that kind of thing. It is really difficult, not impossible, but you know, it takes an extra effort to make sure the pools for those openings are diverse.
And Katrice, talk a little bit about your folks and how what you say to people when they say it's so hard and I can't really, you know, get the pool I need, and so I hire the best person I can find. What are you doing to try to combat that a little bit in our newsroom?
So, you know, and as Maria said, you know, Leona, you're a big part of this, of our efforts in this area. You know, finalist pool, I mean, this is mandatory, right? But for me, it's not okay to say you didn't know, you don't have anybody, you called maybe 2 people. You know, the expectation is for our editors to frankly form relationships with local colleges, with HBCUs, to, you know, to really have a network. I mean, we want to create a database so where even if we talk to somebody for a job and they weren't ready to move, we know that they're open to these positions. And so that name can go into a pool that other editors can actually look at for potential opportunities. And so, you know, one of the things that I also do in my, you know, the 10 minutes of spare time I have a week is work with NLA, the News Leaders Association, as a diversity chair there on helping our entire industry, you know, do better in this capacity. And so, you know, development programs, that's critically important. Understanding who's getting fellowships so that you got access to those lists. All of that to me is the way we're going to improve, but it's going to take some time. I mean, it even goes back to high schools. What high schools are you speaking to? Who are you going and coaching and mentoring?
To that point, adding one more point, the Chronicle is part of Hearst, which is a large company. We have a program called Hearst Fellows, where we bring in people for 2-year fellowships, and I chair that. And the classes before this current one, which I had influence over, you know, there were very few, if any, people of color. And this class that we just brought in were all people of color. So I think the change has to happen when you're intentional about it.
Mm-hmm. I think that intentionality is absolutely critical, and focus, you know, not allowing the pools to not have that kind of diversity really is the first step for sure. And let's talk about this business a little bit. We've seen a lot of our friends and colleagues leave this business, and it's a tough, as both of you have talked through, it's a tough time. Everything from trust in the media to resources to where this industry is. It's tough. Why are you still in this business? What makes you excited about it still?
I don't know how to do anything else. No, I'm kidding.
This is it.
I mean, these jobs are exciting. We're, you know, to borrow that phrase, writing the first version of history. And if we can have some impact on that, you know, it's pretty heady stuff to understand that, you know, in my role in helping these journalists in this room do their best work. I mean, that's the part that I get jazzed about.
Yeah, and for me, I would say I don't know whether it's crazy or not. I've just never wanted to do anything else. From the time I can think of what I really knew a career was, middle school, this is what I wanted to do. And so while I've thought about things, people have called me about PR things. I think about it and I'm like, that would bore me to death. It's in my blood. I think those of us who really love this, it's kind of like it's a calling, like someone is called to be a minister or really wants to be a nurse or a doctor. Because look, we could get a better job that pays better, that has better hours, that maybe you can get some kind of work-life balance. But no, I mean, that's how I feel like I can serve our community and how I can serve others and hopefully have other people come behind me and fulfill these jobs and do a much better job than even I have.
No, it's interesting. Just a shout out right now to Skyline High School, Miss Judy Babb, my journalism teacher. It really did start in high school, and you were okay. I'm in it now. I thought that I was going to be, some of the folks on the call know about Iola Johnson, who was in broadcast here. I was going to be Iola Johnson, and then started writing and love it. And it really is a calling. By now, we, by all intents and purposes, we should have been out of this business, how tough it is. But it really is, if we're not here, I feel, and I know you guys do, that if you're not here, you're here for a reason, and you're here to really tell the stories of these communities. Talk about, we said about, we talked about your longevity and you cannot have had the kind of success and longevity that you both have had without some challenges. Can you each talk about one or two of your biggest ones and how you've overcome them?
I'll start. I think it kind of goes back to, always feeling as if you had to prove that you were worthy of being there. And so I remember my first position was my first actually reporting job was at the Virginian Pilot, and I was hired from a minority internship program they had. And it was a fairly large paper to start your career. And so of course I expected to go out to the smallest city and learn and absorb. And, I worked incredibly long hours, because frankly, that's just who many of us are, I think, to try to prove myself. And I remember thinking that, they think I'm here because I happen to check a box because, I served as a minority. And so frankly, years later, I'll kind of wrap this up. The last position I had was the head of the Indianapolis Star. And when I was named, I got this note from somebody who knew me back at the Pilot, had left years and years ago. And he basically said, I remember you being this, and this is what he said, you seem like a clueless kid who started with the Virginian Pilot. And we were like, oh, she's nice and she tries, but I don't even know why they hired her. He goes, and then you worked really hard. And then he kind of got to the point where then I left, and I kept hearing from others how you're a good reporter and that you were a good editor. And I was shocked. And he goes, so I say all this to say to you, you've earned what you've gotten. And I remember reading that going, I don't know if this is a compliment, because it sure doesn't feel that way. Yeah. And so, I think, we, as much as that you know what you're doing, and yeah, we need help, and yeah, we're still learning along the way. You always know in the back of your mind that there's someone or some people who feel as if you've gotten the position or you are where you are because of something else. And so that's been a challenge. And I think part of it is just, gets in your head, because many people do feel that way.
Maria, how about you? A challenge you can talk about and how you overcame it?
A similar experience to Katrice, just, that questioning of why are you here? I didn't even have a journalism degree. I had a degree in English and had internships. And so that was the extent of my experience and introduction to the business. But I mean, I think my biggest challenge, if you fast forward, is right now. I came here as a managing editor, and 18 months later became the editor with like this much experience doing that sort of thing. And then figuring out like, how do you run a room? I mean, I have ideas based on editors I've watched through my career and what I liked and what I didn't like. So my challenge now is, I think referencing one of your earlier questions, editors now, people who lead these newsrooms have to be both a great journalist, you have to be a data analyst, you have to have a little psychology in your back pocket.
A lot, Maria.
Right, and it is all of that. And there are many days by the time I get to the point of reading a story, I mean, that's like this part of the day. The rest of it is everything else. But I say I love it. Like I love that variety in these jobs and how we are, you know, called to do this. So, but yeah, the challenge is like right now.
Every day, every second of the day. So we are in Texas, and this is a wild news state. It's been an avalanche of news over the last couple of years. And a good bit of it is grounded in social justice issues. I mean, inequality, the haves and the have-nots, even this COVID crisis has revealed some social justice issues and concerns around healthcare and access and the lack of it. How do you balance in your newsrooms the need for the whole notion of objectivity and the critical need to shine a light on all of these inequities? I mean, is advocacy journalism a bad thing?
So I think to shine a light on inequalities isn't advocacy journalism. It's going out there to look at what's happening, who's benefiting, how did we get to this point where there's the systemic inequities in many of our institutions. So I don't see that so much as advocacy journalism as it is reporting on what's happening in our communities, straight on, straight ahead, clear-eyed, no blinking. This is what this is.
Yep, and I would absolutely say, you know, it's part of our mission, right? You know, to help shine light on the issues that our underserved is struggling with. I often think, though, that people think automatically that underserved means people of color. I mean, there are far more people who aren't people of color who are underserved and poor and struggling than people of color are. But still, that is something that, you know, I think that is part of our mission. That's why local journalism became such an important aspect of even the civil rights movement. When you look back at these movements, it's been journalists who've been the ones who brought these issues to light in many cases. And so, yeah, I think as long as we're balanced, and you know, balance it's word choices, right? It's who you talk to, it's who you leave out of a story. And so that's when that objectivity and having those eyes and perspectives really help. And that's why it's really important to have diverse staffs, have multiple people look at a story.
Absolutely. And I think, you know, this whole notion about objectivity is a big question mark. It's perspective, right? And it is about accuracy, and it is about telling the story from all the sides that we see. And I think people get that mixed up, you know, in their heads about what we're doing. So talk a little bit, Katrice talked about the importance of local news. I mean, what lessons and revelations have you two had over the past couple of years while going through this unprecedented time? You know, what about local news, and what kind of revelations have you guys had?
I think local news is most important. It is talking about what's happening down the street in your community, what your mayor and city council is up to, what your police chiefs are up to. You can't get that anywhere else. The thing that might impact you most will be reported on and discovered by local news reporters. Anybody can, you know, dip into an area. You can watch, you know, cable or network TV for national news, but the thing that will impact your lives the most happens here in your city, and that's what we do. And I think it is critically important. I had one reader, you know, we choose a front page, you know, typically we can fit 4 or 5 stories on our front page here, and had a reader email and say, I don't want to read New York Times or Washington Post. I want to read what's happening here. And that just to me is exemplifies what people are looking for from their local news outlets.
Absolutely. It really has, for me, the revelation has been that if we weren't covering these communities and we weren't going deep in what was happening on some pretty important, incredible issues, I mean, where would people have gotten their information? I mean, I worry about just the whole keeping the community informed about what's happening. You both mentioned that you've got families and you've got, both of you have families, both of you have kids. We women in leadership talk about work-life balance all the time. Katrice, that 10 minutes you've got to in your day. I mean, how are you managing it all? Anything you do to try to stay connected to your home life as well as your work life? These are all consuming jobs, I know.
No, I would say support. It's nice to know that, frankly, I have you, Leona, which has just been, a blessing. Maria and I have actually been able to see each other in person and talk, right? And so, having a sisterhood helps, but also having, all kinds of mentors. And I will tell you, my mentors are men. They're not people of color. Knowing that you can reach out, that helps. I'm fortunate that my mother lives with me, which is another huge blessing. And so, she's been of good help. But I think, finding that opportunity to just think and focus on ourselves. So for me, that starts my day with a workout, right? I mean, that's how I can get my head together and frankly, not lose patience when somebody expects me to be a therapist when I first walk in the door.
I always tell this step, at least let me put my purse down.
Well, let me get 3 more sips of coffee.
down.
Like, come on, 3 more sips of coffee.
Yeah, I have a 14-year-old who is a freshman in high school now, and he plays soccer. So Sundays when he has games, I love that time just to like be disconnected from the phone and watching him and being present for him. But he tells me, "You're never home," and I'm like, that's not exactly true. I can come here to sleep.
You're just not there very often, not very long, for sure.
But that balance is it's a little hard. I admit to, I on some weekends just binge something, like something that is not serious. I do serious during the week. I do not want to do serious on the weekend. Just something light and funny, and that helps me just kind of bring it down a couple notches, and so that I can get back in and do what I do starting on Monday.
Absolutely. We're going to leave some time for a few minutes for Q&A, but a few lightning round questions. So what has surprised you both about Texas? Any surprises?
Personally, I'll say people are incredibly friendly and welcoming. So like I love hearing welcome to Texas, right? I love that. But people are maniacs on the road. They will run over you. So everywhere I've lived, I felt like, oh my God, these people can't drive. And I got here and I mean, that is very, very true. But great food, which I love being from Louisiana. So I appreciate that.
How about you, Maria?
Same, that people are pretty friendly. I spent many years in Minnesota and they call it Minnesota nice, and it's not. It's not. But here I feel like people are genuinely, welcoming. The other thing that has occurred to me is like, it doesn't just rain. It like angry rains and there's torrents, and it's just, and I understand how people are triggered by, are the lights going to stay on? Is my street going to flood? Like I'm surprised by that, but like, it just can't simply rain.
Wow, that's exactly right. And, of course, if you look out the window, the weather might change in 2 seconds. So what's the best restaurant you've eaten in so far?
I've eaten in too many. I mean, this way I just like, gosh, that's why I got to keep working out. I will say like just great seafood here, which I appreciate. So Torelli's, TJ's Seafood, up on the Knox, just some really good places for cocktails. I mean, I'm having a good time exploring.
How about you, Maria? Houston, no shortage of good places to eat for
Right.
sure, but
I
any favorites?
haven't had a bad meal yet.
Wow.
Seriously. We went to Hugo's for my birthday and it was fantastic. My son, he closed his eyes, put his fingers in his ears because he said he wanted to block out all other senses so he could really enjoy what was going on in his mouth. So so that was good. That was really fun. But you're right, there's so many. The seafood tastes like it was swimming yesterday, which I really love. So yeah, love the food scene.
Well, Katrice has already revealed that she's a Saints fan. What about you, Maria? Who favorite sports team?
Astros.
Of course.
Astros,
Good
all the
time to
way.
be an Astros fan.
Right.
That's for sure. So let's take a few from the audience. Let's see here. Beyond George Floyd, can you speak to how we remain visible and maintain the pressure in our respective organizations to achieve higher levels of organization? How do we keep this momentum going? How do we keep the diversity at the forefront and really focusing on it?
I think
How do we not lose the power?
Connecting it to the bottom line. I mean, look at just the way Target now advertises, right? That has changed, I would say, even the last five years, let alone 3. I mean, they're bragging about their Black-owned brands that they have. They recognize that with our world changing, with the census telling us, more folks, people of color will, be the majority, that if they don't reach us, and more people, Black and brown people, they won't survive. And so no matter what industry you're in, that is the case. The same is true for news. If we're really going to be authentic and really be factual, then we have to have staffs that are reflective of that. And frankly, our goals. I mean, what are your company's goals around diversity and inclusion? How are they measuring them? Are there repercussions for departments or goals that aren't met year after year?
I think that's right. How we continue it is to keep covering these kinds of stories and the aftermath of these stories and what the people promise, going back to see, did they do those things? And also, like, one really specific idea that came out of the Floyd incident was, questioning authorities when they say, you could see the press release. If you go back and look, the press release that Minneapolis police sent out after that incident, they said, suspect was resisting and all that. What we know from the young woman who taped with her cell phone and the other witnesses is that is not at all what happened. And so questioning more authorities, because I think, frankly, we hadn't done a lot of that. Police say this happened. Well, I think there's more energy around questioning, well, did it really happen that way, than we had before.
Right, absolutely. Another question, how have your publications navigated through the pandemic and building connections with colleges around you? How has the pandemic really affected the business, I guess is the general question.
I would say, it's meant that we've had to learn to communicate better apart. I will tell you, though, that the downside, I think, of that is, we don't get to learn from each other as easily and as often. And so it's harder to develop when we're spread apart. It's also been harder for newer people that we've hired to really understand more about the community immediately, because if they're working around people, they'll hear, they might get a tour, but when we hire them and they kind of find a place and they're just isolated, it's much harder to do that. And so, I do think, Slack, Google Meet, Zoom, all these ways are opportunities for us that we've had to adapt to. What I would say about colleges is, I've only been here a little under 3 months. And so, but 2 of the places I've been, I visited Paul Quinn Community College. I wanted to go over and take a tour and meet, the administrators there. I've also been to SMU and to their J school. And so, getting out, talking to our educators, trying to have a good relationship with local colleges is going to be really important, I think, as we actually understand their perspective, even in the stories we're covering, right?
Mhm.
That generation is our future.
Absolutely, absolutely.
We have done similar things during the pandemic, sent everybody home. We communicate through Slack and email and Zoom. But what we also did was, once we figured out there were some people who had vaccines, so later during the pandemic, we brought in those folks. So we brought in people who are new. So newer employees were the first group that we brought back in. Our interns, we brought them in over the summer, and our Hearst Fellows who are part of our newsroom. So the newer folks who needed that connection, they work in the office.
Got it. Guys, we have a couple of minutes. Last words. Go buy the paper, go get a digital subscription. Last words.
Yeah, I would say that, let us know if you feel as if we are, not getting the perspectives of a story accurately. Share your story ideas with us. Reach out to us. We want to hear your perspective. We want to better cover the community. That's critically important. And we also want to reach and come and have conversations like this to explain what we're doing. I would tell you that, our survival depends on reaching a larger audience. It depends on having impactful journalism. I always talk a lot about being indispensable to our community. And the only way we're indispensable to our community is if we're covering the things that matter the most to you. So help us with that.
Same here. If you want to discuss something or you want to talk, I am here. I love to meet with groups because I want to figure out what Houston is about. What are we missing? What haven't we done or said that we should? And what should we know about?
Absolutely. We're planning several of them next year. God willing, we can meet in person, some community meetings to really get at that and also kind of demystify the place. There are best times to get news coverage. There are times when we are looking for stories and scrambling, but at the end of the day, we really are all trying to do the best we can to cover the communities in the most accurate way. And we do need help. You now know 3 people at Houston Chronicle, the Dallas Morning News, and all of the Black press representatives we have here. Please reach out and just call. Everybody's names and emails and phone numbers are all in the publications and online. Don't hesitate to reach out if you have an idea or a story that we should be covering. I will say that it's been a pleasure, ladies. I'm really just want to take a moment to say how proud I am of you and how much I am looking forward to see the transformation you make in these newsrooms. It's been a long time coming and you have earned it. And I hope you appreciate that. And I hope the community appreciates that as well. So I think other questions out there, anyone? People are saying they're proud of Houston and Dallas.
I'd like to also jump in and say, big kudos to the Women Honor Today from the Black press. You guys have paved the way for us. And I can speak just Cheryl has been amazing. Just from day one, has stepped in and introduced herself and been there. And I just can't thank you enough, Cheryl, for being another sister to me here as well. Thank you, Helen, as well, for this wonderful opportunity. I think the more we've learned about you, the more I'm like, oh, I want to be Helen when I grow up.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And Cheryl, I've known Cheryl for years. She is so consistent, so giving, so wonderful. Sunny, we're due for lunch soon, so let's do that. And it was just amazing to hear about Miss Molly and Karen. So kudos to you all too.
I will say Texas newsrooms are in good hands, very good hands. Helen, I think you're on mute.
I would definitely agree. I think we're in great hands with you wonderful women and with the women that we honored earlier today. And what a great conversation this has been. We want to thank you all for your time. We want to say how proud we are of you. Someone mentioned isolation, and we don't want you to be isolated. It's kind of lonely at the top. So I certainly want to commend Maria and Katrice, because when I'm out in the community in Dallas and in Houston, I was I guess at a meeting last Monday or so, and the people at the table said, well, Katrice Hardy was over at Concord Church, and we had a great conversation sitting around. You know, she was just very humble and very professional, and obviously knew what she was doing. But I mean, it was just a casual conversation that I was having with some friends. And then Maria, likewise in Houston, I was talking to somebody the other day who said they were scheduled to have lunch with you. So thank you for reaching out to the community, because as a member of the community, one of the things that I have sometimes talked to newspapers about is we just want a balance from the community. We're not saying don't print the negative stuff, but we're saying you don't do enough in terms of those positive stories that are going on in our community. And I think what helps us to be able to make sure that there is that balance is if we're talking to one another. And certainly the Women's Leadership Summit and the women on this call intend to reach out to you to continue to have dialogues with you. And I know that Katrice is new to Dallas completely. So we are looking forward to having a reception so you can meet some of the extraordinary women in this community in person. And these are extraordinary women who are on this call today. And the same with you, Maria. You got a little bit of a head start because you were in Houston a while, 18 months or 15 months or so before you got the top job there. But still, we want to get to know you better, and we'll be asking to have a reception with you as well. So I am just delighted. This has been a wonderful, informative, and enjoyable program, and we thank you so much for being with us, and thank all of you out there who tuned in. And we'll see you later.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.